What is up, guys? Private Eye Russ here, and welcome to another episode of the Private Eye Russ podcast. I'm your host, Private Eye Russ, owner, operator, full-service private investigation security consulting company, corporate theft investigations, criminal defense investigations, litigation support investigations, pre-long-term relationship, and pre-marital investigations. Has this individual you're about to tie yourself to for the rest of your life, in theory, have they been honest with you about their past? Reach out to me for those and the other investigative services. I also offer personal one-on-one personal development coaching services if you're a man who wants to reclaim his identity and not be a wind-up toy automaton NPC that the public schools and society seems to want to crank out. Reach out to me for those and all the other services we talked about at RUSS, R-U-S-S, at privateeruss.com. That's privateeruss.com, or send me a direct message on X and I'll take care of you. All right, so let's get straight into this story. Boy, oh boy, this is not a private investigation story. This is an executive protection story. So a lot of you know I've done executive protection work for a very long time. My first bodyguard job, maybe I'll tell the story about that if you guys ever want to hear about it. It started way back when I was 11 years old, if you can believe that. So I've been doing this for a long time, right? So I had a client, very, very successful guy, very brilliant guy, brilliant guy. Him and his business partners were doing extremely well, and I get a call one day from him saying that he's going to Europe for some funding. And I was like, okay, there was nothing new on that because, you know, he was constantly traveling overseas and elsewhere all over the place, right? So the follow-up call I get was from his business partner. The business partner says, hey, can you come in? I want you to look at this. There's some stuff about this guy's trip that I'm not really comfortable with. I want to see what you think. Okay. So I go into their office. I sit down and I look at it and I said, okay, this is the classic 419 scam. I said, he's not falling for this, is he? So the 419 scam, the Nigerian scam, they call it the 419 scam. The numbers 419 are the the statute number in Nigeria that covers fraud. Okay, so the 419 advance fee fraud scam kind of works like this, to give you a simplified version. Somebody reaches out to you by email or by letter claiming to be a prince from Cameroon or who knows wherever, and that they've spirited some money out of the country, but they need someone responsible like yourself, who they've heard very, very good things about, to give them your bank account number so they can wire the money into your account. In exchange for doing this, they will reward you with 10% of the money, which is where the fraud comes in. So, if you're a greedy person, and this all preys on someone's greed, right? So if you're greedy or gullible or both, you're going to give them your account numbers, and as soon as they get your account numbers, whatever's in your bank account will be siphoned out. If there are accounts associated with it or connected with it, those will be siphoned clean as well too. They're international criminals. You'll never see your money again, and that will be that. And you'll make a complaint to the Secret Service and all the rest of these places, and you'll be stuck like Chuck. All right, so he was falling for a more sophisticated version of this particular thing. This person claimed to be some sort of high government official, that the company, the business, but the country was collapsing, and he managed over years and years, 20 years, to siphon off so much money. And so in exchange for this, he'll help them do this. Okay, fine. And so I was like, so he's not falling for this, right? I said, is this the trip he's going on? They're like, yeah. Okay. I said, I think it's bogus, but just make sure he doesn't use accounts that have any that have any money in it if he really wants to go that route. And so they were like, well, he wants to go there and meet with them. He's supposed to meet with them in person next week. And I was like, well, that's not going to work out. So a day or two goes by. Then his business partner and his wife show up at my house, my apartment at the time. And, which they never did. Nobody really comes to my house unless they're invited. And I've got a whole protocol thing. If you knock on my door and you're not invited, I'm probably just not going to answer the door. So I look out, I see it's them. I invite them in, and they're like, "Look, he's going anyway. He bought tickets, and so we want you to go with him." And I was like, "What? Me for a simple fraud thing? I don't need to be there." They're like, "Well, he's supposed to sit down and meet with them, and he's setting up this route. We'll talk about the route we did later. And I'm not telling anybody. He's passed away decades ago. He's been gone for quite some time. God rest his soul. All right, so his wife has also passed away years ago as well too. So God rest both their souls. Nice people, and so they wanted me to travel with him, and we were going to be leaving from Miami, and then going to Heathrow to a few other places which we'll go over. And so initially I was like, man, I really, because I had work to do. And so I would have to drop what I was doing and go on this trip. It was only going to be about a 5-day trip, 5 to 7 day trip, excuse me. And so we weren't really sure exactly how it was going to go. And I was like, okay, well, and so I agreed and we went. So we drive down to Miami. On the drive down, I'm telling him, I was like, dude, this is nonsense. But he was just sure, he was certain. So whoever was scamming him was actually a pretty good scammer, and I actually wound up meeting the scammers later. We'll get to that part of the story. So we get to Miami. Because it was last minute, he couldn't get any first class or business class tickets. All right, so this guy was a numbers nerd, but he was also a power lifter. And so the airlines, what they did was they stuck every dude that lifted weights, every broad-shouldered dude on that plane in the same row. And so we're literally like this, all of us. And it was a miserable flight. It was a horrible flight, man. And so we get to Heathrow. We spend one day there. I got to actually have lunch with one of my cousins. I have a second cousin, who was in a musical band back in the 80s. They had a couple of top 10 hits. I don't think anything reached number one, but we actually sat down and had lunch, and my cousin got to meet my client. He didn't believe it. He was like, "Wait a second, you're with this group?" And he's like, "Yeah," and he was the drummer, and I am one of the backup singers. So, but whatever. And so we go on our way. So our route took us to Isle of Man, then Latvia, then back to Isle of Man, Cayman Islands, and we also went to a couple of other offshore banking havens. So you can all already understand what we were doing. And so I learned a lot about, let's just say, offshore bank accounts. Let's just put it that way. And money that you don't want people to know about necessarily. Right? So we get to the meeting place, and we're meeting them in Germany. I won't say the city, but we're meeting them in Germany. And this was during the time when there was a heat wave in Europe. Right? So this was a while back. And the hotel, even though it was a beautiful hotel, luxury suites and everything, their air conditioners over there just aren't really up to snuff. Like here in Florida, AC is literally kind of like a necessity. If you don't have AC in Florida, people have actually perished because it gets kind of warm. And so we're in the hotel. The hotel is miserable. It's hot. Like you're trying to sleep and you're sweating. I actually went out and bought us a couple of like floor fans. I had to drive around a little bit, and which was a little bit uncomfortable because I wasn't really familiar with the city, but whatever. And so the next day we're meeting with these people that he's supposed to be doing business with. Now, they don't know that I'm accompanying him or what my role is there. They have no idea. Now, did I know guys in Germany that were ex-military guys? Yeah, quite a few. I knew a couple of Kampfschwimmers. You guys will know who that is, what those are if you're in Germany or you speak German. I also know quite a few ex-foreign legionnaires. Maybe one day I'll talk about some of the hijinks I got into with some of those guys. Again, we're talking about a long time ago. Anyway, but I hadn't reached out to anybody because, as far as I was concerned, this was just a simple executive protection job. I didn't really need any help. Obviously, you can't carry weapons if you're an American in Germany or any other part of Europe. And so, but whatever. We'll get the job done and do what we need to do. So he's going to meet with them. We rented the conference room. And so he's there, and I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. And so we had purchased a couple of cell phones, and I had a wired, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack wired mic and an ear thing. Not one of the fancy ones, not one of the ones I wear on executive protection jobs. Just one of the hangers that you hang in your ear. But they sufficed. And so he kept his phone in his pocket, and I was in the next room. All right. So he gets there, they start talking, and they said, well, we want you to come to this location, and we have documents we want to show you. We don't think this is a secure location. That's when I walk in the room, and I was like, okay, if we're going to a secure location, he'll drive with me, and I'm going to be accompanying him. And they're like, who's this? And you can tell they completely changed. Their demeanor completely changed. Now, I wasn't dressed like, I wasn't wearing a white tank top and some, Timberlands and baggy jeans or anything like that. I was wearing a suit. Even though it was hot as heck, I was wearing a suit. And, but you could tell their plans for this guy, as soon as I saw their reaction, I understood why his wife had a premonition. She was like, I think something bad's going to happen. I want you to be there. I want you to make sure nothing happens to him and that he comes home safely. And I kind of took it lightly. I was like, dude, there's a couple of scammers. They're probably not even there. They're probably trying to get him to wire some money. But they were actually there in person. And so I didn't think they'd actually show up. I thought it was all just part of the scam. But they were there. There was two gentlemen from my guess would be they were actually Nigerian, even though they said they were from a separate country. And so when I got there, everything changed, and they immediately canceled their plan to go to a separate location and said, oh, we'll reschedule and we'll talk again and this, that, and the other thing. And so they left. I made sure they left, watched them. I wrote down their tag of their car. They weren't using a taxi. And, just in case it was useful later. And so when I went back and talked to the protectee, I sat down with him and I was like, look, dude, I said, did you see their reaction? He was like, yeah. I said, if you had gone to that secondary location, we would never see you again. And so what would happen is this, we did, I wound up doing some research, not myself. We wound up hiring somebody later on down the line. And we found out that this group was actually part of a kidnapping ring. And what they do is they'd kidnap you and demand ransom. Your people, your business and it's usually wealthy business owners or executives, and your company would pay the ransom, and they'd ask for more ransom and more ransom and more. And, ultimately you'd never be seen alive again. You'd wind up in a ditch somewhere or who knows where, buried in the foundation of a building a la Jimmy Hoffa or who knows what, right? So it was actually good that I was there. And so I learned a lot about international banking. I learned a lot about the offshore banking havens. Just, I was a little bit maybe naive or uninformed, I should say, about offshore banking. Learned a ton about it and about how people move money around that don't want money to be seen. And so, and also, offshore corporation structures and all the rest of these things. So the whole thing about this is the 419 scam and other scammers. Scammers typically prey on people's greed, right? So, when someone approaches you like this, you have to understand that they have set this up so that there is no way you can win. You will not win this particular encounter. Everything is designed for you to either walk away or lose. You're going to lose. You're going to lose your money. It doesn't matter what you do or how you do it. International banking laws, they don't care how they spirit people's money away. I can't tell you, but they do. There are countless victims of this scam, but the main way you wind up falling prey to it is through greed and some naivete as well too. So don't be naive, don't be greedy. Well, there's nothing wrong with being greedy. Just be smart about your greed, man. Be smart about it. There's nothing wrong with making money. Now, I'm not an anti-capitalist person. I'm all for capitalism. Make your money, make as much money as you can. Just be smart about it and don't be one of these guys that puts himself in this particular position, right? So now the client, so by this time, I've already started reaching out to some people I knew in Germany. I don't know if they're still around or not. And they started making some inquiries, and this is how we found out, later on, that this was part of a kidnapping group. These two individuals actually had been arrested on multiple occasions for a myriad of crimes, and so long and distinguished criminal records just there in Germany. And so, as we sit down, we do like a debrief. Me and the client, we sat down and had something to eat. And he's like, you know what? I want to blow off some steam. Let's go to a bar or a nightclub. And I'm like, I don't, you got to be careful going to German nightclubs. You walk into the wrong club, and it'll wind up being a cross-dressing club if you're not careful. With some dude at the front talking about, I am Klaus. You guys know what I'm talking about. You look it up. Anyway, so we find some place, and kind of a little bit of an unsavory place, but whatever, right? And so at the time, I spoke pretty good German, not fluent at that time anymore because I'd been out of the military for a while. When I was in the military, I spoke fluent German and Arabic. I spoke Arabic like people thought I was from one of the Gulf countries. That's how good my Arabic was. And I had my thick macho man mustache, my flat top, which I talked about before. That's what everybody had back then. Don't hate on me. Now I don't think I'm not capable of growing a flat top. So, well, maybe I could, but it would be like one of those deep dish flat tops. So, and so we get there, and because it was so hot, drinking a bunch of water, I was like, look, man, I got to go. Number one, I got to use the men's room or a gentleman's break, let's call it, right? And so I go do what I have to do, come back. He's talking to a young lady, and then she leaves. And he hands her some cash. Then she leaves. And I was like, what the hell was that about? And he's like, oh, don't worry about it, man. I just scored some white powdery substance, let's just say. And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, she's coming back. I said, no. And so she's coming back. I'm picking him up by the arm. And she was like, no. I said, you know what? Just keep the money. It was a mistake. Just keep it. Thank you. Have a good day. And I get him out of there. And so we go back. I didn't say a word to him back to, on the way back to the hotel. We get back to the hotel, and I was like, dude, I get it. You're ticked off. Maybe you're even a little bit depressed. I said, but I do not feel like spending any time in a German jail because you can't hold your water. All right, so pull it together, do what you got to do. And so we wound up booking flights back. We wound up making it all the way back home. He didn't get kidnapped. We didn't go to jail or prison, which is always good. We wound up having a little bit of an adventure in a German airport, but that's not even worth. It was a misunderstanding. They thought we were somebody. They thought the two of us were somebody else, because obviously we make look kind of an odd pair. He wasn't a very tall dude. He was like 5'8", stocky guy. Like I said, he was a power lifter. Incredible nerd, but really, really smart nerd. And so I've always said that the geeks will inherit the earth, and they are indeed inheriting the earth. Look at the three richest men on earth, maybe 4 or 5, maybe top 10, all geeks. All right, so. And me, at the time, I look pretty much the way I do now. I was shaving my head then, but I had a goatee and mustache at the time. And they thought we looked at someone. So we actually got not waylaid, but we got pulled aside by German police at the airport and questioned for a little bit, our bag search. And then finally we get back on the miserable flight on the way back, and stopped in London again for one night stay over. And then I let him, all right, you want to go drink? We'll go to an English pub. I don't remember the name of this place, man, but it was in London, and really, really good fish and chips. And so let him drink and whatever. I stayed sober. I had one pint of Guinness. Shout out to Guinness. Love Guinness. If any of you meet up with me and you want to buy me a drink, Guinness is the way to go, guys. Anyway, so a Guinness or a screwdriver, although I'm not a big drinker. And so we make it all the way back, and we get him back home. I go back home exhausted, unpack and all the rest of that stuff. His wife and his business partner show up at my place again, and they're like, well, what happened, this and that and the other thing? And I said, well, didn't he tell you what happened? And they were like, well, he wouldn't tell us anything. And I was like, well, that's between you and him. I said, all I will say is that it's a good thing I was there. and everybody's okay. And so, they didn't ask me anything else after that, because I think they realized that I wasn't gonna be giving out his the stuff. It was, for him, it was a disastrous trip, because he expected to come back with some funding. And so there was a business venture he was seeking funding for, and he wound up meeting this individual on one of those angel investor sites. I don't remember exactly what it was called, but yeah, it was like an angel investor sites where people go in there looking for funding for different things, right? And this is how he wound up getting in touch with the guy, and whatever tale this guy wove was really, really good, because this was not a dumb guy. This is actually a really smart guy. I know people are thinking, he couldn't have been that smart. He was going to fall for that scam. You'd be surprised how many smart. Look, it's my theory. Intelligent people are actually easier to scam. And hear me out. Here's why. If you understand the lingo of intelligent people, and you understand how to speak to them, you can use certain keywords and certain speech patterns, and they will also think that you are one of them. But because you're one of them, they'll think, okay, this person is one of my people. They speak the same language as me. And it's an easier way to gain their trust. Now, me, I'm a hardened, cynical private investigator who doesn't really typically trust in general, and so for me, I can see scams coming from a mile away. But one of my talents is I'm really, really good at understanding the dark side of human nature. That's been a talent of mine since I was a child. So, but this guy fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Spent thousands of dollars. Now, we'll say one benefit, because he was down in the dumps. But on the flight back, we wound up getting first class, which was so much more comfortable. People say, oh, you're wasting money on first class and business class. No, you're not. Especially on long flights. My gosh, man. No, there is no difference. And then, you're not squeezed in with a bunch of, you get leg room. I'm not super tall, but I'm 6'1". And so if I'm flying coach, there's just not much leg room. There's not much of anything. And then nowadays you got really awful people who just do disgusting things, like they put their feet on people, they put their hair on, like they behave in ways that they really wouldn't behave normally anyway. Like I flew somewhere recently, and everybody on the plane, I'm wearing a suit. Everybody else on the plane, not everybody else, but a lot of people on the plane are wearing pajamas, man. And it's almost like people behave in an extra rude manner when they're traveling. I don't understand it. We're all in the same box together, flying from one place to the other. Why not be comfortable? Be nice and dress well, so you don't look like a ragamuffin when you get to the destination. But anyway, I'll stop with my snobbery. But yeah, flying first class was so much better, so much nice. Business class, so much better. Is it worth it? Yes, it's worth it, especially on a long flight. Intercontinental flight, maybe not. Maybe business class, but if you're flying international, first class is the way to go. If you can afford it, obviously. If you can't afford it, do what you have to do. So this guy was, the guy back in Germany had continued to try to contact him. Now, he didn't know that we turned over all that information to the German authorities, which we did, and we wound up hiring a German private investigator who got some more information. This is after we left. I got some more information on them. We turned that over to the authorities as well too. From what I understand, they both wound up getting arrested, not necessarily for that, but for other things, because I kind of kept tabs. Well, I didn't keep tabs, but people updated me on what was going on. The people I got in contact with in Germany, and they wound up getting arrested for getting involved in another financial scheme, but this time they were trying to defraud a German citizen, and the German citizen they tried to defraud, was well connected, and more well connected than we were, that's for certain. And they wound up getting arrested, and I believe they got deported eventually. So who knows what happened to them? Hopefully, someone sent them to join their ancestors. Just really evil, dastardly group. That just prey on people's weaknesses, but greed is one of those weaknesses that is very, very easy to exploit. The same thing with vanity or hubris. So anyway, that's your lesson for today. This has been an episode of the Private Eye RUSS podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry for the lack of videos. I kind of lost my voice for a few days, which makes it difficult to do my work. And so, when I'd go out looking for people and searching for people on some of my hunts, made it a little bit more difficult, but I still did what I had to do. But there was no way I could have made video. You can probably still hear in my voice a little bit now. My voice is laboring, but there's no way I could make videos with the voice I had before. So apologies for that. I will be making more videos, probably make several today. So this is your boy Private Eye Russ. I am out. Oh, wait. Before you go, before you click off this video onto the next one, okay? Hopefully you're going to another Private Eye Russ podcast episode. Please hit like. Please do it now. There you go. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it means a whole bunch to the Private Eye Russ podcast. Subscribe, and hit that bell on the notification thing so you will be notified every time I upload one of these wonderful and informative videos and entertaining. You get a lot of entertainment value as well, too. And then share. Get the word out. We're over 1,000 subscribers. Let's get to 2,000 subscribers. Obviously, it was a little bit of a hiccup with my voice, kind of abandoning me. And some of it is linked to some of this allergy stuff, man. Just lately in Florida, it's just been rough, man. So, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.